Appreciate you for tuning in to the Theory Expo. If you enjoy the content we're doing, please like and subscribe. And on that note, let's get to it. We're gonna go have a spoiler-free discussion about She-Hulk. But episode 1, we meet Jennifer Walters. They have like an opening kind of like monologue of her trying to get ready for a court case. And they get right to it, right?
Yeah, it really does.
They get right to it, like, you know, and they get right into the origin story, right? We see they have like a cute little conversation between Jennifer and Bruce. They cut right to tell us he had got back into Bruce form. Like, hold on, he was Smart Hulk, and then he told us in Endgame, I merged the two together, and I'm only this guy. We never saw Bruce in Endgame.
Not one time, no.
Next time we see him, it was in post-credit of Shang-Chi. He was Bruce, but he had the arm and the thing, and he was like, and then he told the story. I made this inhibitor chip. I could be Bruce, right? Okay, answers that. We got that answer real quick. Then we rolling. They talking about Captain America. If he claps some cheeks, we see the Sicarian ship. They go off the road.
Right.
Her arm get cut. Bruce's blood get in her. She run off. She's She-Hulk. We getting, and then now they're in Mexico. Bruce is trying to train her. But he's trying to give her guidance about being a Hulk, and he's trying to train her. She feels like she could do it on her own. She seems like she has more control that Bruce ever had.
Yeah.
Right? They even explain how his arms got fixed, that because her DNA was
almost like stem cells or something. Right?
It allowed Bruce to course correct himself, fix his arm. I'm good as gold, basically. He was able to move on. She leaves. She goes to her court case, and villain shows up. She knocks out the villain. So it was like I say, they got to her origin story, finished off with a quick little squab. She just punched the person, and she's She-Hulk, right? So it was a fast pace. I actually talked to somebody earlier this morning about it, just somebody that's like not as nerdy as I'm gonna be about it. And I was like, "What did you think?" Right? It was a young lady. Like, what did you think? She was like, and she pointed out something good. Like, she's like, the best thing about that one was they got right to it, where the other MCU shows that's like a 4-episode arc, and when you're only doing 6 episodes,
that's a good point.
It's usually the 4th or 5th episode that we finally got that information. Right?
How do we get here?
Right?
Yeah,
got
it was well paced, right? We can agree on that.
Yeah,
right?
It was
well paced.
They actually opened up a lot of okay, I didn't know I needed to know these things about Bruce, and I come out wanting to know more about what was going on, because they presented some things. I didn't know that him and Tony was that close in the blip, because that wasn't told to us in Endgame.
I didn't know Tony was close to anybody, right? Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good point.
They didn't present any of that in Endgame. Like, I don't even think they had interactions in Endgame for them to go back and say this time that they had, and then he had the Iron Man helmet sitting there.
Yeah, man.
Right,
then they had his initials.
They had the bar. He built the lab for him, and then it's like, wow, it never seemed like y'all was that close in Endgame that they bring this up. So it kind of raises a question, like, did something happen with them, right? Even during that time, like they was cool, and then they have a falling out, whatever, man. It just raises different things that I would kind of want to know now, right? And then it also made me think about the fact that Bruce really lost 3 people, like out of all the, like, when you look at the Avengers, like, people had different relationships, but when we really think about it, all the people that lost, Bruce had like a relationship. Like he even brought up Nat. Like, he even brought up Nat. Like, yo, I know they did that in Hawkeye, but no, they had like a romantic link, like a for real one, not a perceived one. Like, we know it's perceived,
real live one,
but they had a real live one, right? They had a real live one, to the point where, like, you know, he left, right, and Natasha really never got over that. You know, like, you could tell that impacted her at that time. So. Yeah, he really, really, like, had lost. Like, he had things he had been trying to deal with. Like, it's probably, and you know, I got theories about that, what that's gonna represent. But like, that brought that to the forefront. Like, yo, yeah, like him and Tony was close. Like, Tony and Bruce were science bros. It made me think about that. Like, oh, wow, okay. I don't personally think they threw that out there just for it to be there. I think it's something. I think there's a payoff. Maybe not for this show, but in terms of like what ultimately Hulk becomes. It just made me think about some of the things with Hulk that I didn't know I wanted to know. What are some of your takeaways from episode 1?
I walked away very much curious about the same thing. To be honest with you, I really walked away when I turned it off for the first time. I really was like, damn, man, I'm really curious about exactly what happened with Banner in this time in between Endgame and now, essentially. You know, well, basically between Infinity War and Endgame. And I was looking like you said, it was like, yeah, I didn't know they were that close. You know what I mean? And I even thought there was some distance between Tony, not just Tony and Banner, but Tony and the entire team. Like Tony had just went off and was like, I lost a kid. I don't want nothing to do with the Avengers. I'm not an Avenger no more. I'm about to have he had his own daughter. He had kind of distanced himself away from the team. There seemed to be this divide between the team dealing with the residual effects of the snap. And Tony seemed like he was kind of on the island. Bruce, to find out that he was visiting Bruce and they were having drinks, it kind of not necessarily in a bad way, but it kind of messed with the canon, right? Because it's like, wait a minute, man, I thought Tony was kind of a changed man. You know what I mean? I thought he had sort of changed things around. It's like now to come to find out that, nah, man, he was boozing it up with Banner at the little cabana they got. You know what I mean? The little bar they built on Mexico.
Yeah.
To find out now that, like, man, Tony used to come here all the time. And like, it don't surprise me that he did that necessarily, because they were close pretty much since the Avengers, since they met.
Yeah.
But it does surprise me in that time period that they will come back together, because it's like,
exactly.
I thought Tony had sort of made this transformation where he was like cutting out, because he seemed like he sobered up after
he was cool
after he got back from space, right? Like he seemed like he just kind of did a detox on everything, like including the Avengers. So he just was like, I got a family now. But to find out now that he was partying with Bruce Banner is like, that's interesting to me.
To your canon point, before you go to your next point, because it's like, because when you now, because it raises a question at that time, why didn't they take Hulk over to Bruce's house when they were trying to convince him to create the time machine? Right? They took Cap and Nat. It don't seem if him and Bruce was close like that, it would have seemed to make sense that Hulk would go visit Tony on his cabin. You get what I'm saying? Like if they had that relation, like what was the line they did? The cheers when they did the toast, like here's to a good time and a bad. Here's to having whatever that was a nice little line, right? It was like, here's to a good time and a bad experience or bad situation, whatever that line was, right? That he said that him and Tony had, trying to cope with everything they had lost during the blip. So it seemed like they would have had Hulk show up there, if indeed, unless they got to throw in the line to us that something had happened in between.
Yeah, that's what that's right. That's what I was gonna say. Going back to your line, what you said about something happening, because it is 5 years, right? It's 5 years. He could have been partying with him for the first like 2-3 years, because he still has some PTSD, after that 2 years coming back from outer space and almost dying. He might have partied it up with him for them first 2 years, and then them 3 years he just cut it off. Like, I'm not showing up anymore. So yeah, something might have happened, because I mean, it's evidence there to say, like, man, he really, like, they really got, like, they had never been closer, right? For him to carve his initials on the bar, and to, him to have all this merchandise, all this paraphernalia, whatever,
Led Zeppelin shirts.
Yeah, he got all this stuff from Tony. You know what I mean? It's like, and it was kind of like, it kind of made you like, damn, like, man, we still feeling the effects of Tony Stark. You know what I mean? Like, we. Oh,
my bad. I mean to cut you.
That too, though. Yeah, no, that too. The blip and just the loss of Tony Stark, man. Just that I am Iron Man, that last moment of Endgame, we still feeling that. Like, you could tell, like, Bruce was like, they put that in there for a reason. Like, Bruce was like, yeah, man, Tony used to come here. You know what I mean? He was sad. Like, he clearly was like, yeah, that's Tony Stark.
Yeah,
that was his name. That was like a moment, like, and even though Jennifer kind of like glanced over it, it was kind of like, yeah, that was a moment, you know what I mean? So yeah, he clearly, like, you're right, man. He lost 3 people in Endgame, pretty much after Endgame. It just goes back to how big Endgame was, and the effect that it's still having on Phase 4 and the shows that we've seen in Phase 4. Hawkeye dealing with Nat, now Hulk dealing with Nat and Tony, you know what I mean, and this Cap, really the entire Avengers team. But he lost a lot. So to finally to see that now from his perspective, I would argue that coming from his perspective is like the biggest one. Like it made the most impact. Like, damn, like, because he a lot of and we'll get into this in a minute. A lot of this episode is just showing a dynamic between Jennifer and Banner. Hulk is like so focused in on making sure she don't have to go through what he went through. And you start to see his baggage now. Like, man, being Hulk is hard, man. It took me 15 years, and she just like carefree, like, no, I'm good. I'm just saying, like, no, she hasn't went through any of the stuff he went through. She didn't have to adjust and learn how to control herself and her anger, and she didn't hurt anybody. No, you know what I mean? She hasn't gone through anything like Branner's went through. So you see how bad, you see the effects of everything he's went through by comparing his life with her life, right? You start to it shines a light on like, okay, like damn, like man, this dude lost a lot, and he had already been dealing with being the Hulk. And to see her life now, like she ain't go through none of that, and she good as the Hulk.
So that's a question I have for you. Speaking of that, Bruce has only known a life where Hulk to him is basically ruined it, right? He's a monster, and he always classifies it as that. Jessica at this point only really seems to experience the benefits, the great things about being a Hulk, right? She wasn't trying to hear none of that noise. Like, shit, this is kind of cool, right? So do you think that continues through the end of the season? Then do you think they might bring in the burden of being a Hulk?
Yeah. I don't think it she continues to be carefree, and I don't think it's all gonna be a positive experience for her. I think this is a part of her arc, actually. I think for them to come out of the gates the way they did with like she like boom, you know what I mean? Like, oh, feminism and all this stuff, you know, and she just like cracking jokes. She breaking the fourth wall. She looking in the camera. It's funny. Like, it's like, damn, you know, she come out of the gate quick. You know what I mean? Boom, here's my origin story. I'm having a good time already. You see me, I'm in the middle of this case. Let me go ahead and catch y'all up and all this stuff. Like, she started doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
For her to start off this high, it's only one direction you're gonna go. She's not gonna continue to like we already seen in the trailers and stuff, like she kind of become an overnight celebrity, I think. And a lot of this show might be continue to be flashbacks, right? Like she might already be at a certain height, and then the next few episodes is just her going back, showing you like, yeah, and this what happened, and this how I got, showing you how she got to this status to where she can just hulk out in the middle of a case and fight some chick in the middle of the case. So this going back to what I said, I don't think I think this is just the beginning, but I think, like I said, I think I think that is just a part of her arc, is that she will start up here and eventually crumble down and have to build her way back up. She'll realize, like, man, they see me as a monster, or I'm seen as I'm objectified in a certain way. Like, I'm looked at as like this. You know what I mean? She might not have the same like as negative an experience as Bruce did, but I think she's going to learn that they look at me a certain way. They don't just look at me as a lawyer. I'm looked at as like a monster, and she's going to be treated like one, especially considering that she's going to be associated with the likes of Abomination, and she kind of with a shady organization already, and she a lawyer. It's like, you know, they ain't always looked at as like the cleanest people on earth anyway. So I mean, I don't think they came out of the gate like that I think they came out of the gate like that for a reason. Yeah, they came out to make you like, oh damn, you know, only to tear her down. And I think eventually, yeah, she's gonna tear down and have to build herself back up.
You know, one takeaway that I had from the show, just off of episode 1, they told us that it's a sitcom, right? It's a sitcom, right? Like, it's going to be a week-to-week thing. I come away thinking that this is going to be like a villain of the week, problem of the week thing. This episode was about this. It was his own entity. This week was the Hulk episode. Next week may be the Wong episode. The third episode may be the Daredevil episode, right? And how her interactions with these people. I don't think there's a connective thing where it's like there's a Daredevil arc in this show. I just think they're going to bring a Daredevil in, and we're going to see Daredevil things. We're going to have Daredevil theories, but that's it. We're not seeing them again until Echo or his show. I think they're going to, because they told us there's going to be a lot of cameos, and I think that's the way they're going to do it. So I have these Hulk theories. I think Hulk is going to have a post credit at the end, because they didn't have a Sicarian message vessel just to not do that. But it's not going to play a role until they do like a final end credit. Because we all, you and I know, we can do the whole thing again about we know what's coming, right?
Yeah.
We know what's coming. We're going to get to whatever it's going to be for Hulk. We know that's coming now. And we'll talk about that when the situation comes up. But I think that my takeaway was this is literally going to be episodic. This is probably the only way they can keep that pace going. So it's going to be, we're going to get a lot of Jennifer's story. Jennifer going to be the star of it, but every adventure is not going to be about Jennifer. It's going to be in how she has to deal with these other people. So everybody going to come in trying to tell her like, nah, you're gonna have to do this. You're gonna have to, this is your purpose. Yeah, there's gonna be a bunch of people coming in trying to, that's probably what, to your point, I'm piggybacking on what you're saying, because now I just thought about that. If there's gonna be one thing that's gonna be consistent out the show, the arc is gonna be everybody telling her what your purpose is gonna have to be. You're gonna have to accept that, like, this is,
you got to make a choice.